I spent my career reporting medical news, a topic important to me because I live with my own health challenge, a rare genetic condition called Wilson disease that allows copper, an essential dietary mineral, to accumulate in the liver and brain, causing fatal copper poisoning. It put me in liver failure when I was a college student. I was lucky. I was diagnosed, there was a treatment, and it worked. I've been living with the diagnosis for 35 years and trying to understand it better. I found out that Dr. John Walshe discovered the first treatment for Wilson disease. He's 98 years old and lives here in Cambridge. So when was the first time you heard about Wilson disease?
I had a Fulbright fellowship to the States, 54, 55. I was working with Charlie Davidson, who was a liver doctor. And we were asked to see a Wilson disease patient who'd gone into liver failure.
They couldn't help the patient then, but crossing the bridge from Boston City Hospital back to Thorndike Laboratory, Dr. Walshe had what he calls an inspiration.
I said to Charlie Davidson, you know, what this chap really wants is penicillamine. And Charlie Davidson said, what's that? I discovered this new amino acid which had never been seen in human urine before.
Dr. Walshe had previously discovered penicillamine in London during the early 1950s while studying lab samples from people who were given the antibiotic penicillin.
And then it was just put in the memory bank as an interesting observation of no particular importance.
To prove his theory, a chemist from MIT then provided Dr. Walshe with some penicillamine, and then he did what would be unheard of today. He tried it on himself first.
But it didn't do me any harm, and the next day I was alive and well, so I decided it was safe for me, it was safe for the patient.
So what happened then when you tried it on the patients in Boston?
It got copper out.
Soon after, Dr. Walshe's Boston fellowship was over, so he returned to London with a small supply of penicillamine and tried it on some patients.
My father was Britain's leading neurologist at the time, and he found some Wilson disease patients for me to try it out on.
A year later, Dr. Walshe reported in the American Journal of Medicine that his drug discovery worked. The results were dramatic, as can be seen in this film made in New York's Albert Einstein Medical Center in the 1980s.
Marion came to us 17 years ago, barely able to walk, drink, or eat, and unable at all to write. Her disability had progressively developed over the preceding 3 years, during which she was repeatedly told that she had a neurologic problem, which was, however, never diagnosed.
Dietary copper had accumulated in her brain. After daily treatment that she'd need for the rest of her life to keep the copper from reaccumulating, this is how she looked. But Dr. Walshe found that penicillamine caused severe side effects in some patients, so he looked for a second option.
So we ran into trouble with penicillamine. I wanted an alternative treatment, and my laboratory was literally a couple of paces away from the university laboratory of biochemistry. And one morning I wandered over to the University of Biochemistry, ran into a biochemist called Hal Dixon. I explained my problem to him, and he took a bottle off the shelf. I said, triethylene tetramine, very similar to sparadine, should be non-toxic, is known to bind copper. Try it. And that's how we got tetraethylamine. So it was Hal Dixon's idea, and my work proving that it worked and was safe.
Dr. Walshe and his assistant made the drug in this laboratory behind Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge until they could no longer keep up with the demand. Trientine and penicillamine had turned Wilson disease from an always fatal disease to one that's manageable. Today, the challenge is not treatment, but its cost.
The trouble now is that triethylene tetramine, the people who make it, behave so badly about pricing. There's no doubt about it, they have behaved appallingly badly.
$96,000 is what Univar Europe charges the UK's National Health Service to treat a patient for a year. The North American company Valiant, now Bausch Health, charges even more for its branded version Cyprine.
I launched an extensive bipartisan investigation into the extreme spikes that we were seeing in drugs that have been off patent. For example, the price of a Valiant drug that is used to treat Wilson's disease, a rare genetic disorder that is fatal if left untreated, increased from $652 per month to more than $21,000 per month. That's more than a 3,000% increase in price with no justification.
It's monstrous. It's iniquitous what they're charging for it, because for several years all the triantine used on patients was prepared in my laboratory and sent out free on my basic laboratory expense allowance without upsetting it. It was cheap.
In the U.S., the cost of Dr. Walshe's first drug discovery, penicillamine, is similar.
The way they're charging for it now is absolutely immoral. There's no other word for it. It is totally immoral. It is business at its worst.
Is it easy to make?
It wasn't difficult, not if you're a good chemist.
Walking across that bridge and having that idea, I mean, where did that come from?
Where did it come from? Someone up there. Where do ideas come from? Where do ideas come from?
Dr. John Walshe's idea saved my life. Now, with the prices Big Pharma is charging for his discovery, will others be so lucky?